Right, so let's talk about it. Is Kylian Mbappe the problem? I've seen it on social media, I've heard it on podcasts, heck, I've watched it on video content. Gotta sound old there. Video content, YouTube. Yes, Kylian Mbappe, you could make a very strong argument, one could, that he is the best footballer in the world. He won the World Cup as a teenager, scored in the final. He scored a hat-trick in the next World Cup final. He scores loads of goals. He gets loads of assists. He can run very fast. He can do nutmegs, step-overs. He looks very good. Yeah? He's got very good marketability. Really, his brand is great. He's got the celebration. He speaks Spanish, French, and English all fluently, and still being relatively young. Like, he's just technically entering his prime, Mbappe. He's in his prime now. He's 26. So you could argue he's got 5 years at elite level, a whole contract length at top level, and he will be looking to, after, say 31 years old, potentially emulate the likes of Messi and Ronaldo and keep going. So what's going on? We're going to talk about it today. Welcome back to Football Yannick, guys. How you doing? Well, I hope. Daily content over here on the channel, of course. Should you want to support me, drop a like on the video, and if you like the content, subscribe. And if you choose to subscribe, hit the bell notifications icon. Right, so it's a huge story with Mbappe, of course. He won Ligue 1 with Monaco, and it had like a really good impact in the Champions League as a 17-year-old. PSG, they bought him, they bought Neymar. This was the iteration of PSG when they were doing the Galactico project, long before they stumbled upon Luis Enrique and the idea of creating a team and building a really good team. So he gets his big move. He gets an initial loan to PSG, of course, which is an accounting thing, I believe. Before his permanent move, joins the likes of Neymar and all that kind of stuff. Scores a lot of goals for PSG. I believe he's their top goal scorer now, overtaking both Cavani and Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And is a star. Now, he doesn't, on the surface, come across as a problematic character. But there are questions being asked of late, and this is why he's being discussed in the footballing media and football fandom and stuff, right? So, he's done well. I mean, he's won the World Cup with France. No one's taken that away from him. He's scored a hat-trick in the final. His international recognition is there. He's got plenty of chance. I'm sure Kylian Mbappe will be getting called up to the France team. I'm pretty certain in 9 years' time, Didier Deschamps won't be the manager still. But even as a 35-year-old, I can see Kylian Mbappe getting called up, doing an Olivier Giroud. Do you know what I mean? Like, still, even if he's not starting, still being utilised because he's been so good for so long, because sports science is so clever, because he is such a, big icon in football, and, provided he's not retired, he might still be getting called up. So he's got, despite his sort of France international status being incredible, he's got plenty of chance to build on that legacy. But there is this whole thing, that despite how many goals he scored with PSG, how many league titles he won with them, they couldn't get near the champions. Well, they got to the final with Thomas Tuchel, but they couldn't. They never won it, essentially. And then he leaves. He leaves to Real Madrid amid all this sort of fanfare and circus stuff. Of course, he nearly went before. Real Madrid fans turned on him when he decided to extend with PSG, and then he finally goes. He says to PSG, "Don't try and make me stay. Don't try and convince me. I want to go to Real Madrid. I want to recognize my dream." He's a Parisian kid who, of course, got his chance to play at PSG, but he's a Real Madrid fan. And he ultimately, is a Cristiano Ronaldo fan and wanted to go there and be the next Cristiano. So that was his dream, to his credit. I don't think he went there to try and finally win the Champions League. I think he went there to realize his Real Madrid dream, which I think is an important factor to this story. Not that he just tried to escape the club that never won the Champions League. Similarly with Eden Hazard, I think he wanted to join Chelsea to win the Champions League. He wasn't a Chelsea fan or anything, but Chelsea had just won the Champions League. Unfortunately for Hazard, he goes to Real Madrid. It doesn't work out from there. Chelsea, who he probably would have been the leading guy, the star guy, wins it a couple of seasons later. Again, So it's almost like bookended Hazard's career with 2 Champions Leagues. But we're not here to talk about Hazard. We're here to talk about Kylian Mbappe. So he goes to Real Madrid. He finally gets the deal done. It's really complex, of course. I said in a recent video, he's suing PSG for like 55 million of unpaid wages. They're counter-suing him. It's hella ugly. And he goes to Real Madrid. And of course, the cruel irony and of course the crux of this video is PSG become really good, win the Champions League, win the quadruple. As much as I'd, hope it doesn't happen, probably will win the Club World Cup against my mob, although I do hope Chelsea somehow pull it out of the bag, of course. And PSG, there's just people are talking about them as this historic, incredible team. And it's really important to know that Mbappe played under their current coach who's doing this. And then he goes to Real Madrid. Mbappe goes to Real Madrid, he gets this move, and they win nothing. Real Madrid, who always win the league or Champions League, just always win the Champions League, don't they? League, the League Cups, the Super Cups, the Club World Cups, they win them. They've won nothing. It's almost like the Harry Kane curse. The first season he goes to Bayern, this is the first season in 11 years they don't win, the title. But of course he's now broken that curse and he's got himself a league title. So is Kylian Mbappe the problem? This kid who I've just been waxing lyrical about the first few minutes of this video, talking about his achievements per individual and indeed team. This season has just finished. He scored 46 goals. This is for club and country. So we'll take away 3 goals. 43 goals with 7 assists. So 50 goal involvements. He scored 31 La Liga goals. 30. Is he the top? He must be the top goal scorer of 31. How many did Lewandowski score? I just need to double check quickly. So it'll be top scorer 24, 25. La Liga, top goal scorers. Why can't I find this for some reason? 1 second. Yeah, top goal scorer, 31. 4 more than Lewandowski. 4 more than Lewandowski. He's the top goal scorer in La Liga. He scores a lot of goals. But does that always mean that you are 7 Champions League goals as well? So, it's just, his numbers are incredible. But ultimately, you've got to look at, because, you can funnel goals into a single player. Like Erling Haaland still scored a lot of goals for Man City the season past, and by their standards, they had an underwhelming season. A lot of teams want to distribute goals out on different players, and therefore you can rely on different game states. But the big thing is that there was that thing with Luis Enrique, of course, the PSG manager. He publicly sort of called out Mbappe, and he said to him, look, you can be good, but you need to work hard. You need to work hard with a team. He really questioned and called out his his teamwork ethic, and he just dipped and went to Real Madrid. And of course, we know the rest is history because Ousmane Dembele, a winger that's underwhelmed ever since really he had that amazing breakout season at Borussia Dortmund playing for Thomas Tuchel that got him, his move away to Barcelona originally. I think he went from Dortmund to Barcelona for big fees because they were trying all sorts to replace Neymar. Incidentally, he went to PSG, so it's all a big circle here, isn't it? And of course, they signed. Who did they? So they signed Griezmann, they signed Ousmane Dembele. There was another player that I forget, but they tried all sorts to replace Neymar, and they never really did, Barca. Yeah, man, so Ousmane Dembele moves into the false 9. Granted, not at the beginning of this season that's just finishing, if you include the Club World Cup, but, sort of halfway through, he tried all sorts. Marco Asensio, a couple of other players in the false 9 role, but as soon as Ousmane Dembele went there, and Ousmane is like 27-ish or whatever, yeah. I never saw him as this really hard-working, work ethic player that is sort of led by example, but he's been precisely that. And not only that, Ousmane Dembele, he's got the numbers too. He's got the numbers too. So I'm going to look at now Ousmane Dembele. He's scored 21 league goals in only 1,700 minutes, so 20 appearances. 21 goals and 20 appearances, 6 assists, 8 Champions League goals and 6 assists. He scored 36 goals this season, Usman. And of course, he's not been featuring the Club World Cup. He came off the bench and he's got one start and he's got 2 goals and an assist, probably more than that. I don't know. He's just been incredible, but it's not the goals, it's not the assists, it's how he leads by example, presses from the front, and we've all suddenly gone, right, this is the perfect team. Luis Enrique knows how to do it. He of course won the treble with Barcelona. It was a little bit different. He also had, the MSN, but Messi and Neymar weren't pressing like this PSG team. Like Luis Enrique has innovated and found out this is how you do it with these incredible players. You'd never see Mbappe press like that. And of course, Mbappe's gone to Real Madrid, and despite scoring the goals, there's a lot of Real Madrid fans reacting on social media negatively to him, probably because they're looking at what's happening at Real Madrid, and and Real Madrid enjoyed a Hosselu in terms of that profile. Mbappe, you can't for example, on who scored. I was just looking at for their numbers. His offside awareness is very weak, it says, which is not something that I'd attribute to Mbappe. I don't necessarily will see him offside. Very weak defensive contribution. He's weak at aerials. He's weak at crossing. Fine, I can sort of see those both. He's not really asked to do crossing, or you'd like him to do better at aerials if he's a striker or forward, but whatever. But yeah, offside awareness fine, but defensive contribution very weak. He could never play in that Luis Enrique system. So where is he now? He's at Real Madrid, and maybe Real Madrid of old, I get it, like the Ancelotti iteration, or even the Zidane when he did the 3-peat, the 3 Champions Leagues in a row. Maybe he could have made it work with Mbappe because he's that kind of play, the Galactico whisperer. Times are changing, the landscape's changing, man. And Xabi Alonso, the new Real Madrid manager, will be looking at this, Gonzalo Garcia, the young lad who scored loads of goals in the Club World Cup and looked really good. These young, tenacious players that press. Rodrigo, who's being potentially forced out of Real Madrid, who's a really hard worker. Jude Bellingham said Rodrigo is the most underrated player in the Real Madrid setup, that he works really hard, he plays out of position for the team, and he's so talented. Eden Hazard, when interviewed on John Obi Mikel's podcast when they were waxing lyrical about an informed Vinicius Jr., Hazard said, yeah, but Rodrigo, man, I'm a fan. You should see Rodrigo. So maybe Xabi Alonso will make some changes in what do they do about the Mbappe problem? Because just because he scores a lot of goals, maybe they're transition goals. And look, he's amazing. He is amazing. He's an amazing footballer. But is he a problem? Not because he's a bad footballer, but because he plays in such a way. He's sort of gravitational pull of this energy. When people sort of didn't want Cristiano Ronaldo at the end of his career, even though he was still really good, it's because, is he going to press? Is he going to work for the team just because he's good in the box, just because he's a good finisher? Is that enough? Well, not at the highest end of football. Not now. Not in this current landscape when PSG are doing this. Very, very interesting. It's a really interesting talking point. I wonder if you had a quiet word of Xabi Alonso and said, if you could just have a different striker to Mbappe, snap your fingers and say, would you swap Kylian Mbappe for Ousmane Dembele, Ballon d'Or favourite? And everyone a year ago was saying, well, obviously Mbappe's so much better than Ousmane Dembele. But now, if you said to him, you can swap, watching the way Ousmane Dembele presses and works for the team, he'll probably go, yes, please. Or maybe he won't. I put it out to you guys. What do you think? Let me know in the comment section below. It's a very interesting talking point, I think. So leave your thoughts in the comments. I'll be keen to read them. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for liking the content if you have. Thank you for subscribing if you have. Hit the bell if you choose to. And I'll hopefully see you back here soon. Peace.